The day before the season start, I made a Premier League predictions video, and in that video I said, kind of based on the top four, I said that Tottenham would probably make third place, and that I thought, given the signings that we made over the summer, and obviously the momentum that we had from last season, making it to a Champions League final and stuff, I said that I thought we'd finish third comfortably, and that it would be Arsenal, Man United, and Chelsea battling out for the fourth spot. And I think I said that Chelsea would make it in there. And given my relegation predictions, I said the one team that I could safely say would be unable to avoid the drop this year would be Brighton. And I was pretty confident when I did say that. And today I had to watch Brighton completely outplay, outclass, and just destroy Tottenham in that Premier League game. And it felt as though that Colchester game was kind of the low of this bad spell that we've been going through. Obviously, we had that defeat against Newcastle. We had the one against kind of dropping the 2-goal leads against Arsenal and Olympiacos. And I kind of felt that would be a new low for us. And then we went to Bayern, we played Bayern on Tuesday, and they scored 7 at our new stadium. And I thought, well, that's it. That's the new low. And they've outdone it again. I saw George Achillia just released his video, and he said it's more embarrassing than Bayern Munich. And I have to agree with that. Like, we beat Southampton last week, and it was kind of forgivable that the performance wasn't there because, let's be honest, from the footballing side of things, it was a really poor performance. But what we got in that performance was a bit of determination and a bit of grit, and something that showed those players might actually care about the club that they're playing for right now. But that game that we saw against Brighton today, the only word that really comes to mind when I think about it is pathetic. There was absolutely nothing from any player on that pitch until Lucas Moura stepped on. Absolutely nothing from any of them to suggest that they are playing for the club, that they're playing for the manager, that they're playing for the fans. It was absolutely abysmal. And just looking back on a few of the comments from my starting 11 reaction video that I put up, obviously when the teams came out, and Sue Smith, she left a comment here saying, "There's a huge difference between players playing badly and players waving a white flag. Ours are waving that white flag." And I have to fully agree with that. It's okay that teams go through a patch of bad form. And Mauricio Pochettino said that, I think after the Bayern game, when he said, this thing just doesn't just happen to Spurs, it happens to every team where you go through a bad spell, you're going through bad form. And that, we know that's going to happen, and we accept that's going to happen. And when it does happen, we forgive the players and we move on and we watch them make up for it in their next game. But this is more than a spell of bad form. And I think Sue's hit the nail on the head here, saying our players are waving that white flag. And it's absolutely baffling why this is happening, because it's so hard to kind of figure out why. Because we know this kind of run did start towards the end of last season when we had those really poor results in the Premier League, ones like against Burnley and Southampton, and we dropped some points at home as well, mainly that West Ham defeat. But the Champions League kind of covered over the cracks there. And now coming into this season, I personally was extremely optimistic after that transfer window, and I know a lot of fans were. We had that disappointment on deadline day when the Paulo Dybala deal fell through, but all this optimism, all the kind of hope, the boost that we were given when Daniel Levy started spending money. He brought in Ndombele, Lo Celso, Sessegnon and Clark, and even though only one of those players is actually in our team consistently this season and has probably been one of our best players, all that optimism is gone. And you have to look at Tanguy Ndombele, who turned down Juventus and knew there was some interest there from City, but decided he wanted to get the deal done, he wanted to go to Tottenham. What is he thinking right now? I can't for a second sit and watch this team and think that Tanguy Ndombele is happy with the decision that he's made. Ryan Sessegnon, coming up from the Championship from Fulham, as he said in his interview, it was so hard to turn down a team that made it to a Champions League final. He's yet to put on the jersey, to step on the pitch, and I do not doubt that he's regretting the decision he's made. Giovanni Lo Celso making a couple of appearances. This isn't the team that they signed for. They signed for a top 4 team, a Champions League team. They were the second best team in Europe last season, and that's not the team they're playing for right now. In a couple of years ago, that last season at White Hart Lane, when we had that amazing run of form, and we went into that transfer window, and people are saying, "Oh, we need to buy him, we need to buy him." The argument that was being thrown around was, Tottenham will not sign any players. We will not be able to sign any players because there are no positions in that starting 11 where you can look at them and say that's a position that needs to be improved. That's a position that a player can come in and do better. Every single position in our starting 11 was, we felt, the best that it absolutely could be. And it proved to be true. There was no players willing to join the club because they knew they wouldn't get into that starting team. That's 2-3 years ago. And looking at what we are doing right now, I can easily think of a player that will start in every single position on that pitch that we just aren't good enough in right now. And today kind of was, as I said, it was the third new low in the space of 2 weeks, and you have to wonder, where are we going to go from here? Like, I hate the international break, and I know any football fan does, but I am delighted that we don't have a game for 2 weeks, because it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And I mean, I'm sorry, but to lose 3-0 to Brighton is bad, but the way in which we lost that game, like, looking at these stats, Brighton had 17 shots with 6 on target. We had 8 shots with 3 on target. Now, 2 of those shots on target came when Lucas Moura came off the bench. And as much as I love Pochettino, as much as I will defend him to the last, I do not understand where he's getting these where he's making these decisions. Dele Alli starting against Bayern Munich on Tuesday after having probably the worst season of his life last year and having only got worse this year. I can't defend that. He was absolutely abysmal in every game he's played this season. And why, in a game against Bayern Munich, when we need every single player at their best to try and get a result against them, he starts Dele Alli and he leaves Lucas Moura on the bench. And today, going out against Brighton, sure, they're not the best team in the world, but we're in an awful run of form. You need your good players, you need your form players on that pitch. And he decides again, he goes for Christian Eriksen over Lucas Moura. Why? That's one thing about Mauricio Pochettino that I'm really starting to get annoyed about. And don't get me wrong, I'm not Poch out. I'm not saying that at all. I'm 100% behind the manager and what he's trying to do with this club. But I just cannot understand why he made that decision. Lucas Moura came off the bench, I think it was after 80 minutes or something. He was our man of the match. It's as simple as that. He had one shot from distance that Matt Ryan made a good save from, and he'd one really good run. He went in 1-on-1, and again the keeper made a good save. But he showed more attacking threat than any other player who was on the pitch for the entire game, and he played 10 minutes. And Christian Eriksen, as Graham Roberts said, should never get anywhere near that first team squad again. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate him, but he's just not good enough. He doesn't care. He's not playing for the badge. He's not playing for the manager. And when he does leave, and I hope he does sooner rather than later, because it does seem inevitable at this stage, when he goes off to a team like Real Madrid or Juventus or something like that, he's going to do well, and I hope he does well, because he's a player that needs to be playing around good players in order to perform. If we're playing in a tough game and the players around him are a bit off, he's not going to be the one to take the game by the scruff of the neck and win it and change things for us. He won't be. He needs players around him to do well in order for him to do well. And when he does get that move to a bigger team, that will happen for him, and I'll be happy for him. But right now at Tottenham, he's just not good enough. He's not the player that we need in our team right now. We need players who are going to fight for every single ball, who are going to show that they actually care, who are going to, they're going to track back if they have to track back. They're going to do that high press and stuff. And Lucas is that player. Lamela is that player. Son is that player. Eriksen isn't. And Dele Alli isn't. And these team selections are really starting to get on my nerves now. And as much as you can say, this is down to the players not playing, Pochettino does have to take his portion of the blame. And I see people in my comments stuff saying, I'll never say anything bad about Pochettino and I'll still defend him. I will say what it is. If I think he's made a mistake, I'll say I think he's made a mistake. And in the last couple of games, I think he's made mistakes. But he's only human. And he's going to make these sort of mistakes. And the fans who seem to think that Pochettino owes us something, I don't get that at all. He has turned this club around. He's completely turned the fortunes of this club around. He came into Europa League side and we've just played in our first ever Champions League final. 4 months ago, and people still have the nerve to say that he's at fault for all this. Need to get rid of him and bring in Jose Mourinho. I do not get that at all. Now, getting into the game today, obviously after a really unfortunate start, and obviously my thoughts and stuff go out to Hugo Lloris. It was a really, really bad looking injury that he did suffer. The cross came in and he probably should have tipped it over the bar. That was probably the best thing to do, but in all this, the goalkeeping error isn't the thing we need to focus on. It was a really, really bad injury and he could be out for quite a lengthy period with this. But straight away, we're 1-0 down, 3 minutes against Brighton. That certainly changed the game because it allowed Brighton to... Well, I say it should have allowed Brighton to sit back and kind of soak up the pressure, but they didn't have to because there was no pressure for them to soak up. And for that first half, they absolutely controlled it. And there was chances galore for them, and thankfully they didn't take as many of those chances as they could have. But eventually they did get the second goal after half an hour. Aaron Connolly getting what I assume is one of his first professional goals. I mean, you can say all you want about the defending on that. I could sit here all night talking about it. First of all, I think Sissoko really showed why he shouldn't be playing in right back. I know he did great there against Southampton, and I think was it Arsenal he played there against. There was another game he was there, and he did pretty well. But he was really, really poor today in that position. And as for the defence in the box when that cross came in, Alderweireld and Vertonghen, they were completely out of the area where they should have been. And as much as Vertonghen probably should have been marking Connolly, Ben Davies on the other side could see absolutely everything happening. And he was way too late getting in there. He didn't call for Vertonghen to drop back. He didn't get in there and cover it himself. And he left Connolly in acres of space in the middle of the box. And it was a really good delivery from the left and a good flick from Connolly for the first effort. And Gazaniga made a really smart save down to his left. But then all of a sudden Ben Davies is trying to recover from the other side, and in trying to make the block he inadvertently deflects it into his own net. And all of a sudden we played half an hour away to a team who at the start of the season were the relegation favourites. They're a team who haven't won since the opening game of the season, and the only game they had won was against a team who were rock bottom of the table, who at that time had 2 points after 7 games, and they're beating us 2-0. And like, Brighton hadn't won a home game since March when they beat Huddersfield, who finished bottom of the Premier League table last year, and still we can go there and they can outplay us and make us look like Colchester, I suppose. And I mean, the thing going around on Twitter today was we were beaten by Bayern and Hove Albion, because that's what we made them look like. And from then you could just tell there was no chance we were going to recover that game. The only shot on target we had before Lucas came on was Christian Eriksen from 30 yards, firing one straight into the goalkeeper's hands. And there was a few free kicks he hit them all into the wall. There was absolutely no creativity, there was no spark, there was no pace, there was no ability up in that final third. And in possession we were absolutely dire. I mean, I was sitting inside and work watching this, and there was a few Liverpool United fans and they were just laughing at us, and there was nothing I could say about it because it was laughable, that performance that we showed yesterday. And I'm kind of running out of ways to describe just how bad we've been this year. And as I said with regards to the Southampton game, I couldn't care less about the performances at this stage. I just want a bit of heart, a bit of determination from the team to show that they do actually care, and we're just not getting that at the moment. And as for that third goal they scored, again, really, really well converted, I suppose, from Aaron Connolly. But where the hell was Moussa Sissoko? I mean, sure, we're on the attack, but he's 30-40 yards ahead of the rest of his defence. And when that ball gets down and it's Aaron Connolly one-on-one with Toby Alderweireld, who we in the last couple of years have touted as one of the best centre-backs in the world. And to be fair, given the performances he's shown in that time frame, he probably has been one of the best centre-backs in the world. Definitely one of the best in the Premier League. And he's coming up against a young Irish player who hasn't made too many professional appearances. I mean, 2 years ago he was playing Sunday League football in Ireland, and now he's up in this Premier League stage making Toby Alderweireld look like Titus Bramble. And it's a shame that that's what it was. There was absolutely no effort from Moussa Sissoko to get back in and recover his position and maybe give a bit of a hand to Alderweireld. But Alderweireld facing up against this player that he should have been able to deal with absolute ease. One touch, he's away from Alderweireld, and it was a great finish into the bottom corner. You can't say anything about Paulo Gazaniga with that one. But it was just abysmal. It really was. And then I don't know why Tanguy Ndombele was taken off at the break. Harry Winks came on, and look, Winks was alright. It was a kind of typical tenacious performance from him, but nothing too special. But then the sub that, if it had happened earlier, could have possibly changed that game when Lucas Moura came on. I mean, when he did come on, he had a number of chances, as I mentioned earlier in the video, and he was probably our best performer on the day. And I mean, that's not good enough. He played 10 minutes away to Brighton and Hove Albion, and he was our best performer of the day because he had a couple of shots on target. I mean, Heung-min Son, who came off, this is a stat that's really worrying me. Statistically, Heung-min Son is before today. Statistically, Heung-min Son has been our best player this season because he's a goal involvement every 173 minutes. So that's a goal involvement nearly every 2 games, and statistically he is our best player. That's problematic. That's not good enough at all. That's not a team who are going to fight for the top 4. It's not a team who are going to get out of their Champions League group with Olympiacos and Red Star Belgrade, because right now it doesn't look like we will. And it's just problem on top of problem on top of problem, and now we're going into an international break where we always get an injury. Last one was Giovanni Lo Celso. So on top of him and Sessegnon being out potentially until November, Hugo Lloris now, only God knows how long he's going to be out for, and we're probably going to pick up another couple of injuries over the break, and it just all seems to be falling apart at Tottenham at the moment. I don't think the answer is Poch out. I don't think that at all. I think he's the guy who's gotten us to this stage where what's happening now is it's a kind of a catastrophe. It's a capitulation, whereas in the past that would have been the norm for Tottenham. Maybe not 7-2 and 3-0, but having these kind of spells where you just lose all the time, and it's just not looking good at all. And look, typically this kind of area of the season has been our worst under Pochettino. That 2016-17 season that I keep referring to, where we finished with 86 points, it was this part of the season where we had a few dodgy defeats. I think to like Leicester, might have dropped points against Watford. Typically in between these two international breaks is the worst part of our season, and we go on and we flourish over the Christmas period. But there's nothing that we've seen from this season to suggest that that might happen again. The only thing I can really see is going out against Watford at home after the international break and struggling, probably scraping a victory, because Watford only have 3 points after 8 games and they've just failed to score at home to Sheffield United. It's a good game to get back into the swing of things because Watford have been so poor this season. But even with that, it's hard to confidently predict that we will beat them. It's just not fun to be a Tottenham fan at the moment. And I know there are a lot of fans out there who have been through a lot worse periods than me, and I'm not saying this is the worst period of our club ever. It's the worst period that I've had to endure as a fan, and of course that's going to frustrate me. And I know there's going to be people who are saying they were a Spurs fan under the years of Gross and Juan de Ramos and all that, and I know that was probably worse, but for me this is the worst period of being a Tottenham fan, and I'm going to be angry, and I think I'm right to be angry, and I think everyone watching is right to be angry, because there's a lot of things that need to be fixed at the club, and for me it starts with the players and not the manager. But look, we've 2 weeks off now for the players to kind of gather their thoughts, and we know a lot of them are going off on international duty, and hopefully they will come back match fit. But this could be a good 2 weeks for us. It could be a big 2 weeks for us. There was talk that Pochettino wouldn't be at the club coming out of this international break if we did lose to Brighton. We have, but I can't see Pochettino being sacked. He's told us he's not going to resign. He's told us he wants to be there for the next 5 years minimum. And I don't think Daniel Levy is going to sack him, not only because of what he's achieved with the club so far, but Levy knows that if he does get rid of this manager, he himself will be forced out of the club, because we can't afford to lose a man like Pochettino, who despite this run and despite seemingly having lost the dressing room, he's still entirely devoted to it, to his project and to the club that he is working with. So hopefully things will pick up after the international break, but who knows. And don't forget to leave your comments and stuff down in the comment section below. I want to hear your thoughts on the performance yesterday, but mainly the bigger issue at Tottenham at the moment and what the hell is going on and how the hell can it be fixed. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and click that notification bell and hit thumbs up in this video if you have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.